All right, welcome back to my channel. We have a video here about tuning. This is objective. Everybody has different ways of doing it. You know, you can take one gun and 6 shooters and there's going to be 6 different ways to tune it. This is just what I do and how I do it. Kind of just take this at your own risk. You know, if you want to mess around, start tuning and changing things, which, you know, you really should understand how to do and do. Yeah, so let's start with the spring hammer, because that's an added adjustment that you won't have on the air hammers. But I just want to get that one out of the way, because pretty much once you get it in the ballpark, you're okay, and then everything else that I talk about will be, you know, in that ballpark. You know, if you're with the spring hammer, if you're shooting 100 bar and then you want to do a tune to where you need 200 bar, you're going to need to change the hammer. But basically on the spring hammer, you have like Steve says, the rainbow thing. So as you increase the hammer, you'll get faster and faster feet per second, and then it'll drop off. And that peak area is where you kind of want to be. And so once you set your reg pressure, open your dwell valve a bunch, so you're getting speed. You're not pinching off the dwell, so that way you're getting speed, and you're pretty much pushing the projectile as fast as you can. And then you adjust the hammer. Start turning the hammer in until you increase, or if you start turning it in and there's no increase, then you want to start backing it off until you know, it might actually start going faster and then going slower, and then you find that top. And that's kind of where you want to be with the hammer. And you also want to listen to the gun. If you don't have enough hammer, it'll be really soft firing. If you have too much hammer, you can hear the valve just slapping, the hammer just slapping the valve, and it's just crack, crack. You know, you just know you're too hot. So basically you're just looking for your peak speed with the hammer. Once you set that, then you're golden at that reg pressure that you're working with. So basically, let's get into like different calibers. I'm going to talk about 3, 177, 22, and 25. I'm going to start with 25 because that's what I'm most fluid with at the moment. So when I shoot pellets, I'm shooting a 33.9. I'm generally running about 108 bar, and I'm finding the AEA 33.9s like about 940 out of this gun. I basically set it at 108, and then I adjust the dwell to get to my speed. And then from there, I kind of use the dwell to kind of go up and down in small fractions. You know, I might go a quarter turn in, a quarter turn out, to find my barrel harmonics, and just kind of leave the regulator alone. You can also change the regulator if you want, but I found the dwell to be kind of an easy thing, because at 110 bar you can put your finger on the dwell and you can turn it with your fingers. You don't need a wrench. And I just give it a little quarter turn and see what happens, and watch my feet per second, and go from there, and just watch and try to find that barrel harmonic, try to find out that speed. And like I said, on this, not this gun, but my pellet gun, this is my slug gun, it has, it likes 940. So I'm like upper, 938 to 942 in there. That's my fluctuation. And the shot string's really good. It's just super accurate that way. Now on the 25 with the slug, and I shoot the Arturo, so it's 60 grain, and I'm also doing some Corbins that are 60 grains. That's usually 180 to 190 on the bar. And I adjust the dwell to get, with the Arturos, they like 890s. I found that the Corbins can go faster. Let's back up a second and go back to the pellet. One thing that you want to be concerned about is your first and second reg. If your first reg is up at 190 or 220 or wherever it was where it came from the factory, that's fine. That's okay. What I have found for better consistency is to have a 40 bar spread on between the first and second reg. So if my first reg's 110, then I want 150 on my first reg at the bottle. That just seems to be consistent, because when I have shot from 300 bar and gotten underneath the first reg and got down to like 120 on the bottle, and it was 108 the whole time. It was 108 the whole time. So I just kind of found, it's like, hey, that 40 bar seems to be the deal. Now, if you go too short on that and say you only do a 10 bar spread or a 20 bar spread, what happens is there's not enough room in there, and the pressure's too low, and it doesn't really let the second reg recharge quickly. So you'll have a slow recharge on your plenum, and that matters when you're pushing a lot of air. It just the first reg is just too slow to replenish the second reg. So the better, the larger the gap. 40 seems to be a good one, but like I said, you can leave it at 190 to 220. But if you're going to shoot the gun and that's the round you're going to shoot, I would shoot for the 40 bar spread between your shooting reg pressure, your plenum pressure, and your first reg. So then with the 22 cal pellets, I'm finding a 120 to a 135 depending on the grainage of the projectile. I'm also with a 40 grain 22, the Arturos 180 bar seems to be a good starting point to work with. And again, I adjust the dwell. I set it 180, I adjust the dwell to get the 890 to 900, because the Arturos, that's where they like to fly. The pellets, for 22 cal, if you're going to shoot a redesign style pellet, it's more cylindrical. It's not an extreme Diablo with a narrow waist on it. The 120 to 135, and then I adjust the dwell with the RPB barrel. 920s, 930s seem to work pretty good. But I'll just set the dwell in there or set the reg at 120 to 135 and just work the dwell. You might want to go a little faster or not, because with the pellets and slugs, I may have mentioned it before in some of my other videos, is pellets don't like a lot of air coming out behind it as it leaves the barrel. Even if you got an air stripper, it just causes instability, and you'll just get bad grouping. So I like to kind of work a high pressure and a short dwell for a pellet, and vice versa for a slug. I like to use a lower pressure and a longer dwell for a slug, because there's more bearing surface and it's more resistance going down the barrel. So you kind of want to push it all the way out. That way you get more consistency out of your shot string. But that's something to play with. Like I said, I can't tell you exactly how to tune your gun. I'm giving you guys ballparks, and you got to play with it from there. I can't tell you exactly how to tune your gun. I know how my gun likes to tune, and yours should be relatively in the same ballpark. but you're going to have to hunt for it. If you're shooting 357, you're going to want to increase your first bottle, your first reg, and run it up to like 240. So, because you're going to want to run up, if you're going to do 125 grain, you're going to want to have your first reg set at 200. So there's your 40 bar spread. Excuse me. Now, when you're getting back to the regulator and you're tuning, if you're going to be shooting a 177, there's some things that you got to do to really help the gun shoot better. And so if you're running like low reg pressures, you should really, if you're constantly going to be under 140 bar, I would immediately change your reg to a 2-on-2 spring stack. I just highly recommend it. If you're going to stay above that and you're going to be, shooting slugs all the time and you're up in the 180s, then stay 3-on-3. It just, the regulator's just happier that way. It's more consistent. Maintain your 40 bar between your first and your second reg, minimum. You don't want to be any lower than 40. Keep it above 40. When you're shooting 177, you definitely need to, if you're trying to get into slower foot pounds, like 12 foot pounds, there's a few things you want to look at if you're having issues with inconsistencies at low pressures. One is the 2-on-2 on the spring pack. The other one is the valve seat and the amount of air that you're getting. Another issue that you can have is this has got a monster plenum on it. It's 125, okay? You're shooting a little 177, 13 grain, 10 grain, whatever, and you got this thing turned all the way down to 80 bar, you've done the 2-on-2, and it's still not happy with it. A lot of that comes down to the plenum being so big that you're not even utilizing the plenum. So it's not even telling the regulator to give it more air, but it still drops. And then your next shot will bring the plenum down, and then all of a sudden the regulator goes, okay, boom, it'll recharge the plenum. And then you'll shoot and it'll drop, but it won't excite the regulator to charge the plenum. So you'll have this shot string that'll be like this. Couple ways to combat that. If you're having that issue, and one way to try it is to get like a wooden dowel or a plastic rod that's within the diameter of the plenum chambers coming into the back of the gun, and remove one of the plugs and taking the chamber and putting a plug in there to take up the plenum size. So that way you're bringing the plenum down and making it smaller, because you just don't need that big of a plenum when you're shooting an itty bitty 177 and you're only pushing the gun at 80 bar. It just kind of mucks with the regulator. And this is one way to get a little better consistency. Another way to get better consistency out of it is to take your valve seat, and you have 2 large ports coming out of the bottom of the valve seat. 180 from that, you can drill a hole in through the valve seat, and then when you put the valve seat in, you flip it around so that those large ports are not facing the barrel and just the small hole is. And then that will require you to increase your reg pressure to get the same amount of air in behind the pellet. So then you can run 130 bar, and now you're changing things a little bit, but still the plenum size could create an issue. The other thing that's kind of neat with the new barrel design, I'm throwing a whole bunch of stuff at you all about just different ways and tricks of things of doing to get what you want out of the gun, is on the barrel. They used to have the machine flat surface for the set screws to go in. Those are not there anymore. Now there's just these two little machine down surfaces, and then you have a little dimple that's in the brass portion of the chamber that tells you that you want that to be straight up, and that tells you that your transfer ports are straight down. Well, what you can do is start turning the barrel one way or the other, so that little dent or the little detent mark in the brass, you can start turning that and turn it to like, 45 degrees. Now you're only utilizing one of the two ports, and then you can go all the way to 90 degrees, and then you basically have pinched that all off, and now you're it's like a Brocock has it, several guns, the Avenger has it. You're just changing the transfer port size, and that's how you control your speed. But that also creates the back pressure and requires you to bump up your regulator. But there's just little things you can do to play with the gun for that infinite side of tuning. There's just so much you can do with this gun. It's phenomenal. And so basically, I want to shoot a 25 cal pellet out of this. I'm going to shoot a 33.9. I'm kind of knowing I'm going to be low on my reg pressure. So, what I would do is just start with 110 bar, and I just set it to 110 bar. What I would do is open the dwell up a whole bunch so that I'm getting max speed out of it. And then I would start shooting the gun and see where my speeds are. I would start turning the dwell in. And when you start turning the dwell in, depending on if you opened it up all the way, you're going to be turning and turning and turning and turning and turning forever. And what you'll see is your turning is you'll go faster and slower, by 10 bar faster, 10 bar slower, 10 bar faster, 10 bar slower. And you'll have that. And then all of a sudden it'll shoot a little faster, and then you start turning it, and all of a sudden it starts falling on its face. Now you've found that point to where you're pushing, the pellet at its maximum speed, and that means you're using every bit of air to push that pellet right out of the end of the barrel, which I spoke about earlier. You don't want that. You kind of want to slap that pellet out of the barrel, so you want to work with a higher pressure and a shorter dwell. So then I would keep turning the dwell in to get down to my speed. So say I started a good speed, the AEAs, they like the 940s, the pellets, they just like to go fast. They hate 880. Now it's like everybody, 880, you got to push pellets at 880. No, 940. The 22 cal, there's guys out there that are shooting the AEAs, I forgot, 22.9s, I think. I'm probably, think that's correct. They're pushing them at 960, and they're stacking. I mean, out to 100 yards. It's impressive. Jerry Kornfeld just killing it with that speed, and just awesome. What I would do is find my maximum speed and try to drop it 30 bar, maybe 40 bar with the pellet, and with the slug, I would just drop it slightly. Just drop it slightly for my speed. And then if my speed's too fast, I don't like it, and it's too high, then I will raise or lower the regulator to achieve. If I'm too fast or too slow, I'll move the regulator around, and then I'll play with the dwell again. Once you find that barrel harmonics, it's fine. And you could use the dwell because you can get an easier adjustment out of it by turning it a quarter turn. You do have to fire it five times at least for the valve to settle in. Each time you turn the dwell, you need to fire it 5 times. So you're going to go through lead, but once you find it, you're done. You know that, all right, this pellet and this gun, how I have it built at the moment, likes 939, 940, and that's your target. And then when you show up on the range, you make sure, you know, you were shooting at 108 bar, make sure you're at 108 bar on your reg. If it's hotter or colder than what it was when you did your zeroing and your tuning, your regulator might drop or increase in pressure. So you're going to have to drop it down and get it back to that 108 and then fire it and then see where your shot string or where your feet per second are at, and then adjust the dwell to find that 939, and you'll be right back on the money again. It's literally that simple. Once you find what your gun likes, you know, you want to document your reg pressure and document your feet per second, because those two need to match. You use your dwell to get to that. Once your reg is at 108, because you found 108 and you know you're 939, then you turn your dwell and up or down to wherever you need to achieve that 939 and you're spot back on again. It's literally that simple. I wouldn't suggest, it really depends on what you're shooting, but there is a possibility that if you screw your dwell all the way in and you fire the gun, the projectile might not leave the barrel. And if you're not paying attention, you could stack a whole bunch of lead in your barrel. So that's kind of why I like to go, and I'm recommending to kind of open the dwell. So as I was saying, is you open your dwell a bunch and then you start turning it in and you have the faster, slower by 10 bar up and down, up and down. You want to see a drastic change. And then that way you know you've reached it. You want to see when you give it a quarter turn, it dropped 20 feet per second. You gave it another quarter turn, it was like 20, 30 feet per second slower. Now you know you've fallen off that end of it. And then what I'd go ahead and do it again just to validate the fact that I'm coming off the backside and I'm slowing it. I'm truly slowing it down. And then I'll work myself back up to that spot again. I'll start backing it out, because now I know I found that. Because you can get fooled and you'll think you're at the peak and you're not. And it's happened to me several times. And I don't know it until the next day, and I go out and I'm like, oh yeah, I got it tuned, yay. I start shooting it and I'm like, wow, this is way off. And I wind up turning the dwell valve in like another half turn or a full turn, and then all of a sudden it's choking off, and I'm like, oh, I wasn't quite there yet. I thought I was, but I wasn't. And so it's just something to look at. But once you find those and you have that in, you're done. It's just minor tweaks when you get to the range where you're shooting or where you're pesting. Throw off some fire shots, make sure that your bar's set and that you're hitting the feet per second. You do your dope and zero your scope, and you're set. And it's been working for me like that, you know, since I've been shooting this gun. The air hammer, there's nothing to mess with the air hammer. You know, if you're not happy with your shot string, say you can't get it below 2.5 or maybe 3 feet per second, you can try taking, you know, if you've exhausted everything, you've exhausted the dwell, that you don't have too much air coming out behind it or not enough air coming out behind it. Say your dwell's too short and your reg pressure's too high and you're really slapping the projectile out of the barrel, you'll get inconsistencies because of the stiction through the barrel, and it'll cause extreme shot spreads. So you don't, you really want to have just a drop of a few, like 20, 30 feet per second, 40 feet per second with a pellet is what I like from the maximum speed, and that seems to get me a pretty consistent. I might go a little bit shorter than that, but 100 yards will tell you if you got it right or wrong. That's just it. It might be fine at 50. You know, you might be fine at 50, but once you start reaching out to 100, it'll tell you. What else? Yeah, a little bit more about the plenum and regulator. I just want to be clear on that if you're really shooting super low reg pressure and you're shooting super light projectiles, you might want to decrease your plenum size. Get a plastic dowel, preferably plastic. Make sure it's clean. There's no debris on it. It's got to be a clean environment. And fill up one of your plenum tubes. Fill it up. Get rid of it. I was told that you might even want to put even another one in the other, because there's two plenums plugs in the back of the butt of the gun. So you might even want to take up another one. But like I said, that's for shooting super light, super small. They did make a new change on the air hammer. They found that it's not necessarily a linear graph as far as looking at plenum pressure versus the hammer. That no matter how high you raise the reg or lower the reg, that the hammer will always have enough. Not necessarily true. What they have done is added a heavier spring inside the air hammer. So if you are shooting super light one, and you're down low in the reg pressure and you're having an issue with your shot string, you might want to reach out and get the heavier spring for the air hammer. And that actually made it truly linear to where it's equal. So as you go up and down, it's equal up and down. There was an issue to when you dropped too low that actually there wasn't enough air in the plenum to hit the hammer hard enough, so it was like not having enough hammer spring. But that's, again, you're down 180 bar. That's where that issue came in. So the guys that are down there and they're dealing with, you're shooting only 80 bar and you're shooting light projectiles, you do need to make some changes. Now, if you're going to shoot a 177 and you're going to shoot the larger slugs and everything, you should be fine, because you're going to be cranking it up. You're going to be running pressure. But if you're really trying to get it really slow and really getting low reg pressure, you definitely need to make some adjustments, in my mind. And that's what I've seen other people doing and making corrections, and it's working for them. So I can't think of anything else I want to cover. Barrel system, the turning of the barrel to pinch off the chamber or the transfer port, so it's like turning the knob on a Brocock or whatever, or the Avenger. You can change the transfer port size, so you can change, you can restrict the transfer port. You can do the same thing with this by rotating the barrel. With the new ones, the new barrels that have the brass chamber. If you have the flat surface, then you might be able to get away with it, but I wouldn't suggest it. The new barrels, they'll work with that. They're just different things you can do. So I'm going to go ahead and recap real quick. You just set your reg pressure, and then open your have your dwell all the way open, or not all the way open, but open enough that you're on the other side. Start bringing it in and make sure that you get a good drop. And with pellets, 40 feet per second, it's good. 30 feet per second is good. With my slugs, I'm just barely slowing it down, 5 to 10 feet per second with a slug. Okay, sorry about that. Had a minor interruption there. So real quick, for like a 357, you're going to be going from a 80, 90 grain to 125 grain, you're going to be 180 to 200 bar and corresponding with the grainage. With the 25 cal pellet, if you're going to be shooting the 33 9s, you're going to be around 108, 110 bar. And the 25 cal slugs, the 60 grains, you're going to be 180, 185. 22 cal pellets, I would start at 120. I would honestly start at 120, 125 and do the dwell. You might need to go a little higher on the reg pressure, and then just adjust your dwell for a speed. And a 22 slug, 40 grain, 180 bar, 180 bar, and then with the I think they're Kings, the 40 grain Alturos Kings, I was doing 180 bar, and I was shooting those at 890. So adjust your dwell accordingly at 180 bar, and adjust the dwell for just under 900. I'm still playing with 177, and that's there's too many variables. I can't really get into that exactly because of the hole size that's drilled into the seat, or if you're using the full transfer port side of the valve, which you're going to be slinging the biggest of slugs you can get, and you should be able to blow past supersonic, and you should be able to launch those at super fast speeds with this gun. It's not going to take much pressure. You're going to have a problem slowing it down. That's where you would have to start either rotating the barrel to pinch off the transfer port, which is the easiest way to do it, until you start getting adjustability out of the gun. That would be where I would start with that. Yep, so that's all I got for now. I might do some amendments to this or add to this as you guys start, asking questions in the comments. And then I will try to answer those in the comments, or do another video if I need to. But yeah, so thanks for watching, and stay safe.